Hello everyone, my name is Dorian and welcome to Brands Hatch. We are with the Mercedes AMG GT3 and I'm just going to show you guys a lap real quick and then we're going to take it corner by corner. I'm using the fixed sprint setup, brake bias at 55.2. Let us know if you enjoyed in the comments. Hop over to my channel as well if you want to see more in-depth guides. Let's get on the track. Okay, so we're coming up to turn number 1. Let's look for a braking point. It's going to be right before the 100. Let's call it the 110. I'm going to brake to around 60% diagonally to the outside. I'll show you the actual turning point in a second. I'm going to downshift from 5th into 4th gear just now. And I'm going to point towards this little triangle. This is my turning point. You want to be as close to it as you dare without touching it. If you do, you're just going to over-rotate. And going into trail braking, as I do, I'm going to rotate the car heavily into the curb, and as soon as I'm about to touch it, I'm going to release the brakes because I don't want to clip this curb. I just want to be as close to it as possible, as you can see. And I'm going to start accelerating back out again, just squeezing the throttle, not mashing it to 100% very quickly, just squeezing it back to 100%. Then go all the way to the outside, stay in 4th gear, and going back to prepare ourselves for turn number 2. Now we're going to brake right before the orange stuff here, the orange marker, and we're going to brake quite heavily to around 65% ish, staying on the outside for a little bit, downshifting just now into 2nd gear, trying to release the brakes, and I'm going to rotate in 2 stages here. So there's the initial rotation that brought me here. You can see that's the wheel angle, and now as I turn in the car and I want to hug this curb the whole way through, I'm going to ask for a lot of rotation, so obviously my brakes are going to decrease, and I'm going to trail brake into the curb. And as soon as I release the brakes around the halfway point, already back on the power, and I'm going to be very modular here, so around 50%, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, squeeze into around 60-70%, and as I open up the wheel back to 100% in 2nd gear, and I'm just going to let the car wash out all the way to the outside. Use this net. This net is very useful. It's going to be on a lot of places on this track, like the next corner. Up into 3rd gear, brake right before the 50, call it the 60, right around here. Braking again diagonally to the outside to try to keep as straight a wheel as possible. There's a lot of corners here where you have to brake while turning, so you want to brake diagonally so you can be as straight as possible. Going to the outside here, using this net on entry because it has a lot of grip, surprisingly. It has more grip, I think, than the actual tarmac. That's how it feels like, at least. As soon as I touch it, the car instantly rotates, and I'm going to release the brakes altogether to not over-rotate the car. And then I'm going to go back to trail braking just a little bit before I go back to the power. As you can see, I'm overshooting into the curb, and I'm going to use the throttle to kind of wash me away from it. All in 3rd gear. Squeezing into around 50%, nice and gently, all the way back to 100 as I dismount the curb, and using this net on the way out, and we're through. Now, that's going to bring us to turn number 4, I think, and we're going to brake right at the 50, and we're going to downshift from 4th into 3rd, right around here, peaking, I would say, yeah, around 70%, then gradually releasing. You don't want to release the brakes too abruptly here. You want a stable car throughout and while carrying a lot of speed. very difficult corner. And I'm gonna downshift into second just now, because you can see I'm just trying to follow the rubber here. Nothing special, just following where the rubber goes. I'm not inventing the wheel here. And slowly rotating the car more and more towards the apex. This is my apex, and I want to go back to the power quite a bit before it, just to get the best exit possible. So I'm over rotating towards the apex, and again, I'm using the throttle to wash me away from it so I can clip it nicely. You don't want to touch this curb, it's going to make the car bounce and it won't behave on the exit. Let the car run to the outside here, using third gear right on the exit, and we're through. Up to this corner, now we're going to brake right before, right between the 100 and 50, call it the 75. And we're going to peak it around 60%, downshifting from 5th into 4th right around here. And we're going to follow the racing line, just easing into it. Don't clip this curb on the inside too much. It's going to upset the car and chuck it to the outside, give you some understeer. So try to avoid overusing it. You can see I clipped it just a little bit. If you overuse it, it can really chuck you out. And pretty much slammed the throttle on my way back out, and you're through. Now we're in 4th gear. We're gonna break down into 3rd gear right before the orange stuff here, the orange marker. We're gonna start braking 60% and downshifting quite late here. That's the trick. You want to downshift late after you did all your braking pretty much. So I'm peaking, I'm releasing, the car is turning, and I just downshift. You can see the blip. I'm just downshifting into 3rd now because I want to keep a stable car on entry here. So I'm just going to let it kind of float a little bit, tiny bit of trail braking. And as I mount the apex, mount this curb, I'm going to start accelerating, just squeezing the throttle nice and gently because I don't want to create too much understeer on my way out, using the net and going back to the track, up into 4th gear, letting the car roll down the hill and following the rubber here. Now again, we're going to brake diagonally to the outside, not an actual visual brake marker here. You just want to get a sense of where you need to brake. You have this green stuff on the right, that might be a good indication for you. And I'm going to start braking right here, very shallow peak, around 45%, letting the car go to the outside and starting to trail brake just a little bit as I downshift into 3rd, all the way into the curb. And now from this point on, I'm neutral and starting to go back to the power. As soon as I mount this curb, you really want to mount it. You want to cut it as much as you can without getting a time penalty. So this is pretty much it. You got all of the car right on it. My left tires are on the white line here, and I'm already accelerating back out. The reason I'm using 3rd gear here is because as soon as you reach the end of the road here, you kind of reach the limiter. You can see that right now. And that prevents you from washing out too wide. You can use 4th and be just as quick, maybe even a little bit faster. But 3rd seems to be safer. It kind of keeps you from going all the way to the outside and clipping this grass. If you do, that could be game over real quick. Now, immediately taking the car to the right, trying to prepare it for the next corner. Braking well before the 50, call it the 70-ish. And I'm going to downshift from 4th into 3rd. And peaking pretty high, just trying to slow the car down and releasing gradually, trying to turn in early. And I'm going to look for the curb on the way in. All this rubber, all this camber, and this curb are going to rotate me a lot. So as soon as I mount it, slam the throttle back to 100%. No hesitation. 3rd gear, then wash out to the outside, using this curb on the way out, and you're through. Following corner. Right before the 50, be as brave as you can. You want to brake sort of at the 60-ish. You got the screen marker. That's a good indication for you. But just be as brave as you can. If you feel comfortable braking here, then fine. But all the time is under braking here. Very difficult to gain much on the exit. I find that even if you brake early, you'll get the same exit speed. So I try to brake as late as I can here, right around here. Peaking very high, around 80%. I'm going to start to rotate the car. I'm in 4th gear right now. I want to downshift into 3rd. As soon as I reach this part, which is my turn-in point, where the grass kind of ends here, and you can see I'm downshifting to 3rd, getting some rotation done. And because of all that rotation, I'm just going to release the brakes very quickly. I got an altitude change here that I want to be stable on, so I'm going to start accelerating back out again, letting the car, you can see I'm just squeezing the throttle, letting the car just wash out to the outside. You got to get used to this white line. You're going to be good friends with it. And if you're qualifying, just take the car into the inside, and that will give you maybe a couple hundreds. That will be a 121.929. I hope you guys enjoyed this track guide. If you did, let us know in the comments. Even if you didn't, let us know what we can do better. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.